Good morning, warriors. Welcome to Morning Adrenaline. Today is Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. And today we are going to jump right into our topic because today I want to talk about your dreams of the past and the vision from those dreams for your empowered future. Not the dreams of fantasy and escapism, realistic dreams, powerful dreams, opportunistic dreams, dreams of abundance, dreams that promised you your future was going to be amazing beyond belief. The kind of dreams that once gave you direction, the kind that shaped how you saw yourself, the kind that demanded more from you, not someday, but daily, if you expected to one day achieve them. I'm talking about the dream you quietly buried. Because there was a time you didn't just hope for more, you expected it. And somewhere along the way, that expectation faded. So let me be very clear about the dream I'm talking about. First of all, this is not the dream you had when you were 5 years old, not the firefighter dream, not the teacher dream, not the fantasy before you understood the world. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the dreams you had while you were growing up, the one that formed as you moved through school, as you started achieving, as you started seeing your potential, the dream that showed up when you began thinking seriously about your future, when you started shaping the future in your mind. So I want to do something right now. Close your eyes. I know some of you won't do this. It's uncomfortable. That's fine. For those of you that really want to change your future and get back to your dreams and get back to living on purpose today, the way you envisioned yourself 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, close your eyes and think back. Think back to high school. Think back to college. Think back to when that dream was vivid in your mind, where you were very clear with what you wanted to do. And what was it? What did you want to do? Hopefully your eyes are still closed. What did you want to do? Who did you want to become? Now, let me be really clear. I'm not just talking about career. Yes, it could be career. Maybe you wanted to be a real estate investor. Maybe you wanted to own a restaurant chain. But it doesn't have to be career. How did you see yourself? But more importantly, how did you move in this dream? What was your vision of yourself? How did you walk into rooms? How did you talk? How did you carry yourself? How did people respond to you? How did they look at you? How did they treat you? That wasn't imagination. That was you forming an identity, and your vision identity was powerful. That's the dream we're talking about. You can open your eyes. I'm also not talking about the dream you had a couple of years ago. Not the one that showed up after a hard season. Not the reactive goal born out of frustration. Worth repeating, I'm talking about the earlier one, the dream you had in high school and in college, the vision that pulled you forward before the noise got loud. Back then, you weren't trying to be safe. You were trying to be someone. That version of you wasn't chasing, they were chasing identity. That wasn't chasing comfort. It wasn't chasing things of the world, pleasure. It was chasing identity. You didn't see yourself as a follower chasing validation. You saw yourself as a strong leader, pulling others up and generating extreme value for those around you. The kind of value that eventually becomes your power story. You were confident. You were charismatic, magnetic, the kind of person people noticed when they walked into a room. It wasn't ego. It was alignment with your God-given identity. And this matters today because a lot of people are successful now, but they're not fulfilled. They're stable, but they're disconnected. They're productive, but they're hollow. And these gaps always trace back to identity. Now, here's where people oversimplify the story. It wasn't just responsibility that slowed you down, it was the world, the pressure, the expectation, the subtle manipulation of the mind. People projected paths onto you. Systems rewarded conformity. Culture sold you safety as wisdom. Friends and family told you you couldn't or shouldn't do that thing as if it was above you. And if they had just stayed out of the way, you would have blazed your own trail. But instead, you absorbed the noise. You succumbed to the tribe. You followed the norms. You let media, and now today social media, shape your thinking, your opinions, your thoughts, your emotions. You were molded by the world, not by self, and certainly not by God. And that's the quiet tragedy most people never name. God designed you with purpose, with direction, with a specific assignment. But under pressure, you chose a different path. Not because you were weak, but because influence is powerful when your God-given identity isn't guarded. And listen, we're not talking about guilt here. I'm not trying to guilt you. It's just simple awareness, because that's where everything starts. If you want transformation, you have to start with awareness. Because the moment you see how the drift happened, you realize something critical. You can circle back. Hello? I hope you just heard that. Once you understand the drift and how it happened, you can circle back. Now, let me slow this down for a second and ask you the question of the day. At what point did you stop becoming who you believed you were meant to be and start becoming who the world rewarded you for being? Your life isn't one story, it's 4 stories unfolding at once. It's your story of business, career, and money. What do your finances look like? What does your business look like if you have one? How do you show up as an employee? It's your story of relationships and communication. How do you communicate with others? How do you relate to others? How strong are your relationships? It's your story of health and fitness. And it's your story of spirituality. Most people overbuild one and underdevelop the others. An imbalance always reveals itself eventually. Neglect doesn't disappear. Neglect collects interest. So where have you let yourself down? Where have you let the people closest to you down? Not because you don't care, but because you drifted. Who's counting on you to show up and be better? See, avoidance always ends with a bill later. And remember, that bill is collecting interest. Now, before you try to fix the 4 stories, you need to inventory the human being living inside of those stories. That's you. If you're not following along well this morning, that's you. You're living 4 stories, and we need to take inventory of who we're being that's creating those stories. Because if you don't build a better life with a fractured inner foundation, so don't just ask, Where you are in business, relationships, health, and spirituality, ask deeper questions. Where are you with confidence? Do you trust your decisions, or are you constantly looking outside yourself for reassurance? Where are you with faith? Do you believe your life has purpose and direction, or are you openly liking I didn't say that the way I wanted to. Are you operating like it's all on you? Do you believe your life has purpose and direction? Or are you operating like it's all on you? Where are you with optimism? Do you expect things to work out, or do you prepare for failure before you even begin? Where are you with positivity? Not fake positivity, mental posture. Do you look for solutions, or do you default to problems? Where are you with your character and your integrity? This is a big one. Do your private decisions align with your public image? Where are you with creativity? You know God designed you to be creative. I learned this from Myron Golden. If you've never heard the book of Genesis broken down by Myron Golden, you have to listen to it. The very first thing that God told us about himself is that he is creative. And if you believe you were made in God's image, that means you were born to be creative. Are you still thinking, building, and imagining, or are you just consuming what others create? Where are you with abundance? Do you believe there is more available to you, or are you living from scarcity and limitations? Where are you with relationships and communication? Do people feel seen, heard, and strengthened by you, or managed and tolerated? So you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your inner self, your inner order. Now, if these areas are off, the 4 stories will never stabilize. You can't operate and manage and write your stories powerful with a weak inner story. So this is why inventory matters before execution. Most people try to change behavior without ever measuring the human being behind it. Clarity accelerates change. Now, look, we've built a simple personal inventory PDF that walks you through these exact areas, honestly and clearly. If you want a free copy to run your own inventory score, write this email address down: support@csuvita.com. Support@csuvita.com. We'll send it to you. There's no pressure, there's no pitch, there's no cost. Just a tool to help you see where you actually are. And it breaks it down by your 4 stories so you can decide where you're going. Look, this didn't happen because you lost discipline, and you certainly haven't lost opportunity. It's everywhere. You drifted from the power identity that was once led by the dream. That younger version of you didn't have more resources. They had more clarity, more optimism for the future. They had not yet become tarnished and manipulated by the world. They knew who they were becoming and felt at least somewhat confident their dream was within their own reach. See, when identity is clear, behavior follows without force. When identity erodes, discipline feels very heavy. You don't need a brand new dream. You need reconnection. This isn't about inventing something new, flashy, shiny. It's about revising the chapter where your identity was alive. Rewriting it from the age of 18, 22, or whatever that season was. So now ask yourself honestly, which of the 4 stories did you abandon? Which one did you over prioritize? Where did I compromise instead of train? Where did fear quietly take the pen? Clarity doesn't come from overthinking, guys. It comes from truth. Real change doesn't start with goals. It starts with the subconscious mind. You don't fix this with hype. You don't fix this with willpower alone. You fix it by reprogramming the operating system. Now, reprogramming, the operating system takes tools that you likely don't have right now, which is only a quick and easy decision away. The subconscious doesn't respond to intention. It responds to repetition and identity reinforcement. What you rehearse internally, you execute externally. That's why resets don't take years. Sometimes it takes a week. Sometimes it only takes 30 days. When identity shifts, guess what follows? Momentum. See, my company, Sisu Vita, does all the heavy lifting so you can live the life you desire. By the way, all for the cost of a gym membership. You can completely change your life, your identity, your limiting beliefs, all the mental programming that's keeping you messed up in your mind. You could change today if you chose to. So here's how we finish. With a question that you can't outsource. If you keep living exactly as you are right now, this moment, what will things look like 5 years from today? What will your life look like? Here's a more important question. If you leave the world this way, the way you are right now today, the person that you are, how will those that you love remember you? Will you respect the person you became? Will they respect the person you became? Or will you wish you had the courage to circle back when you had the time, you had the opportunity, and you had the resources available to you, and it cost you almost nothing but to open your mind a little bit to new opportunity, which isn't new at all. It's the opportunity you envisioned way back when. It was the dream you had, and you knew back then you could accomplish it. And now you have doubt, you have negativity, you have pessimism. And it was all brought on by the world, and it was all avoidable. But the good news is you can bring it back today, starting today. Look around the room that you're in right now. Observe what you're thinking about in this moment as you process what we're talking about. See, those answers are forming in your mind and in your environment right now. The answers to your future, the key to your future. You don't need permission to restart. You don't need approval to evolve, and you don't need to burn your entire life down to realign it. Yes, there are some things you're going to have to burn. That's true, but you don't have to burn your entire life to realign right now. But you do need to decide. Work your body, feed your mind, build your soul, wake up the warrior, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.